Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. It is Tuesday, and that means Kevin Brockway from CNHI is with me here on this. Oh, it looks like an okay day out there. Kevin Brockway, how are you, sir?
Good, yeah, a little gloomy this morning, but it I think has a chance to get better, right?
Yeah, you bet. Welcome aboard. Brought to you by our good friends at Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, and Feast Market and Cellar, part of the WOW Network. Make sure you go get your WOW card from either your Google App Store or your Apple App Store. It's all there. Just pull it up and sign up. Start earning WOW rewards today, like exclusive discounts, dining dollars to spend, and more sent directly to your phone. And I cannot wait. Speaking of which, Kevin, one of those WOW places is BB's Market and Cellar, where I'm waiting for the weather to break. It's kind of been okay, but I'm ready for some grilling weather, baby.
Yeah, get out there, get some steaks going on the grill, some burgers, that good stuff. I know that you like to do that on the porch at your place and get some food.
Get it going, man. Tony V's along for the ride today. Everybody hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, and you can always comment as well, 812-269-6367. Took me a minute to remember. Hope everybody had a good day. It's raining up where Ryan is. He's up north. Dwayne down in Evansville saying good morning. Alan Hughes. Steve Ramsey jumping on. Forrest is here as well. Michael Ross. Man, the whole crew jumping in on. It's a calm time. The calm before the storm, as I call it, Kevin, as Zach, our friend Zach Osterman, Ninja Star, I saw he's got a piece or a nice piece in the Star about Trace Jackson Davis and how he's a case study on today's element of NIL versus NBA. Should he stay or should he go? But I guess maybe it is a case study as opposed to in the past. In the past, there probably would have been no consideration to come back. It would have just been gone. And now I think that consideration is probably going to win out, personally. I've said it for 3 weeks. I don't think that he gets the draft position that he wants, and that he is smart enough to see that, you know what, I'm going to wait another season. And but more importantly, I'm going to drain this NIL money and build my brand a little bit more.
It's possible, but I think you always fear about your stock, where your stock is and where it can go. It can go up.
But that's the thing, Kevin. His stock is argumentative, and that's the difference. Usually, at least people agree on where somebody is, don't you think? And where with Trace Jackson Davis, most people don't see him getting drafted, and some games getting drafted. To me, that's the difference.
Well, I think too that your stock can go two ways. Your stock can go up or your stock can go down. So it just depends on where he feels like he is and how much he feels like he can improve. I think that's the big question, and what kind of feedback he gets from the workouts. Now, you could come back for the NIL money. That's very good, but what do you do after you're 23? Or do you think long term? Do you think that you can get in the NBA, get your foot in the door, and if you get your foot in your door, you have a chance for a 5 or 10 year NBA career, which could be in the millions and millions of dollars versus coming back. But it's a risk. I mean, it's taking a chance and it's betting on yourself, really. And with Trace, I think he's going to have to show in the workouts that he's a multifaceted big. You know, you can't just be a back to the basket player in the NBA at your size at 6'9", 245. You have to show a certain amount of perimeter skills. And he's going to have to show that in the workouts. And teams are going to have to be comfortable with that. And he's going to have to explain why he didn't, you know, put forth or show those perimeter skills during the season, because we certainly didn't see it.
Five Left says he makes some damn good ribs. Well, you know, you cannot brag like that without. You have to share and then brag, and then we will confer, and then concur with you on those ribs. But yes, I agree with you, Kevin. Let's see. Yeah, Tim puts up Keon Brooks Jr. in the transfer portal. Interesting name. Former kid out of Fort Wayne, a big IU target. It looked like IU. Well, Indiana did have him locked up early on, and then he slipped away to Kentucky to a career that just never amounted to anything. I mean, he was really a lost name there, and it just never materialized for him there, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to look up his numbers. I thought he had a halfway decent year last year. I mean, he averaged in double figures, I believe. But yeah, the promise wasn't there. And yeah, remember a couple of years ago, everyone was talking about what a miss that was for Archie and so forth. But it didn't work out. It would be curious to would have been curious to see if it would have worked out here for him had he come here as a freshman. Would he have had more opportunities?
Of course, he would have had more opportunities. Are you kidding me? Look who was on each bench at the time he arrived.
Yeah,
but yeah, it would have been during a changeover. It would have been while he was here with Archie. He probably would have left. He would have hit the portal and not come back.
10.8, 4.4 rebounds last year, and as a sophomore, he was at 10.3, 6.8 rebounds. Shot. Doesn't shoot well from three, 23%. He would have fit in really well at Indiana. But rebounds, assists, blocks, he was solid. He was a solid player.
And it's another cautionary tale, though. Here's a big-time 5-star recruit who it just didn't work out. I mean, you wonder. I'm a lot more, as I get out and see more of these kids play, I don't look at their, I'm going to stop looking at their, ratings and all that. I just watch them play. Can
they play?
I've talked about here lately, seeing Trent Sisley and Jalen Harrelson and those guys who are young. They're going to be sophomores. Well, these guys are probably going to be rated very, very highly, and they are, for a good reason. You can see that over 4 years. It's when you see these guys over 4 years, it's hard to misrate them. But I think what happens is sometimes relationships comes into play on certain players, and their rating gets higher. But Robert asks, does anyone read Raptors? No one, not me. That's obvious. I don't read any sites like that. That's obviously a Kentucky, some kind of board of some kind, says I use an IT program now. Okay, well, they're ranked about 100 spots higher than Kentucky on any list of colleges, so whatever works for them. Ross says Calipari said UK's not going to play the NIL game. That's funny, since Mr. Sweetway was earning $2 million next season. One of the highest. He might be the highest paid player in college basketball next year. But hasn't that always been par for the course? Hadn't Kentucky always had the highest paid players in college basketball?
Well, yeah, and there's been a lot of debate about the.
You missed that joke.
I know. I heard it. Yeah.
You just let it go. Didn't even acknowledge it.
Yeah, well, I was, I know how Kentucky has been over the years and so forth and everything, so it's nothing new. But the there's been a lot of interesting debate in NIL with regards to the Isaiah Wong situation last week and where it's going. You're talking about guys that are gonna renege on their agreements, right?
Can't do that though. They're under contract.
Yeah, and that was
and they're learning that the hard way. Some of them, they're
Yep.
learning what under contract actually means.
Exactly. Yeah, and that got through and so forth. But when you go public like that, it creates a kind of a messy situation.
Yeah, it does.
Last week, and people brought it up, and they didn't really like there was a lot of brushback about it at the end of last week with regards to where this whole thing is going. It'll be I'll be curious the next few years to see if certain fans or certain fan bases are really turned off by this.
About what? The NIL situations?
Yeah. And will it impact college attendance long term?
I think that no. Here's what they care about: winning. It's the same for anything and always. Winning cures any. If your team starts winning, they don't give a crap. Miami and that booster of theirs, billionaire, has NIL deals with over 100 Miami athletes. He has personally earmarked $10 million of his own money for NIL money for Miami athletes. Miami, that puts Miami in a great situation. He wants Miami to be good. He wants Miami basketball to be good. And I've said this, and it was met with I felt like it was met with some disagreement with. I was surprised, but I said last week to a group that we had on is that anywhere in this country now, if there is a guy that's wealthy, and I said this yesterday about, let's look at Warren Buffett. Say he wants to turn the University of Nebraska at Omaha into a basketball power. Are you kidding me? You think that he can't? Boom. He'll drop the wand, and buddy, next season they will have 5 of the best starters in the United States because he has got more money than God. If he wants to do that, that could happen. If Mark Cuban wanted to throw in with some of the big players at IU, boom. IU's got
family, yeah.
Amongst others.
Yeah.
Amongst others. So it is absolutely, but these schools already were getting big chunks of money from a lot of these people. I'll tell you who it's going to, and I'm not saying it's going to hurt them, but it's going to affect them, are the schools. Are they going to be getting the same amount of money donation-wise that they were before? And that's what their concern is, because now this money is being siphoned off onto the NIL side, some of it. And they're like, whoa, we're losing our money. So because they're not, while they do benefit, and they benefit greatly in an ancillary fashion by having a great program, whether it's basketball or whatever it is. So the schools also have to decide where's this the Mendoza line of giving up, where we know we've lost some money through donations, but we've gained a better program, so we're gaining more by winning. We get more TV exposure. I don't know. We get more attendance. They get more other things. While they start selling, can they not start selling merchandising with the players' names on the back of it?
Yeah, that's, like I said, that's interesting too. You could get into, that, they're doing that in the NBA, right? With jersey advertisements, that could come to college. I think too, what you bring up your point about I think the donor pools are a little different too, in terms of, you've got, certainly, I think people that are going to donate for NIL, but then I think you'll have people that'll still donate from the school. I think you just have to find different donors or different donor pools for each each venture, for example. I think the big thing with, the kind of donations for facilities, for example, and so forth, is people want to put their names on things. That's like an enduring legacy thing. That way, if you die, you're remembered, or so forth, and everything like that. That's kind of the motivation for a lot of facility donations, or building donations, as opposed to like the cook hall, right? As opposed to NIL money, which is I think a different enterprise and a different venture. So I think there's enough money to go around for both, and I think there will be enough money to go around for both. You just have to kind of stump and find it, and find the different people that want to donate for different reasons.
Well, and then that's why you have these smaller NIL, it's collectives that are trying to do their own thing, which the thing with that is there's no control over that by the school, and they're more interested in one sport, or they have their own agenda. That's the thing. They have their own agenda, I guess is the best way to put it. And IU does not or whatever school. Each school is going to end up having their own quote unquote NIL arm, as I call it. The Hoosiers for Good is that for Indiana. And Purdue, however, is not doing that to my knowledge. And
they're putting something together. Yeah, they are. Yeah, I read Tom Diener did a story that they're putting something together, that they're getting a collective together, apparently.
But it does not seem to be on par with many of the other schools.
No, they're trying to, I forget how the article was phrased, but they were, talking about the Purdue culture and the Purdue mission, and they're trying to put something together that will reflect that. But every school is doing it because I think every school knows that they have to do it to compete.
Culture. Yeah. Let's see. Let me look down through here. Culture. Yeah. These players can't spend culture, so they don't give a crap about culture that are coming in. I don't think so. That's cool at all to say. They can say that now, but yeah, that'll be different when in a year or two from now, I think. Hey, we got to take a break. The great Mike DeCourcy coming up next from the Sporting News, Fox and BTN. Can't wait, as always. Great to talk to Mike, and looking forward to it. Brought to you by our good friends from Feast Market and Cellar. Don't forget, they're located right next door to Southern Stone Restaurant and on Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington. Offers an extensive selection of wine with a sommelier on staff. That's because they take their pairing seriously. They also provide a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, and a coffee bar, bread, and pastries for Kevin Brockway. Just for you, man. Feast Market and Cellar. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington. Good morning, Mr. Mike.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Wonderful. It rained all night, which woke me up, which I loved. Had the windows open and I heard it storming, and I'm like, oh, I love that. I was so tired. I played golf yesterday, and probably I played like 16 holes, which is the most I'd played. And I could tell, I'm like, oh my God, you old man. I'm like, wow. And that's in a cart. And the funny thing is, I just spent the entire weekend coming back and forth from French Lick, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, watching the men's Big Ten golf championship. And I need to talk about this. Not only do they have to walk like the pros do, they have to carry their own damn bags. And if you have been to the Pete Dye course, oh my! First of all, it's built on a semi-mountain. If you can call that a mountain here in Indiana, but more like a hill or a knob. But it's the second highest point in the state. And I had a Twitter shot that I put up of the wind. They've got a big flagpole that goes up really high, aluminum, and it was cool. They had all 14 Big Ten teams underneath the American flag, but as I panned up, you could see that flag just tip of it, the top just bending over. And I'm like, wow. It was probably 50-mile-an-hour gust up there.
That doesn't surprise me.
Have you been up there for anything?
No.
It's worth the trip, Mike. It's just so beautiful.
Since coming here, I don't know if this is our nickname or someone else's, but we call it Windiana. We've never lived in a place with so much wind. But,
really? Well,
yes.
But part of it is, I think, because of where you are, being up in Indianapolis and especially on the north side, it's all flat up there.
Exactly.
If there's nothing.
We come from Cincinnati, which had lots of hills,
right,
and Pittsburgh, which had lots of hills.
Very similar still to Bloomington. I'm from Southern Indiana. This is not, I guess, some people call this Southern Indiana because it's south of Indianapolis, I guess. But I'm real Southern Indiana, down by Louisville, that area. But it's still very hilly, knobby. But all the way up to here, it's not as much, but still. But man, once you get up, not very much farther at all. It's like the Ice Age. Well, I know where the Ice Age stopped. I can see that. Indiana is like you might as well have taken an iron to the top 2/3 of Indiana and just flattened it.
All right, here we go.
Hoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by BB's Market in Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by BB's Marketplace in Bloomington. BB's Marketplace is your local meat shop, steakhouse, and caterer, no matter where you live, with some of the best custom meats around. BB's Marketplace has the largest variety of in-house products. You can reach out to them at visitbbsmarket.com and order online. Kevin, you'll be doing that. Get you some steaks. I'm ready for it. Mike DeCourcy joins us now from the Sporting News, BTN and Fox. How have you been, sir?
I've been very well. Got a chance to see my wife presented with the Distinguished Alumnus Award from our college, Point Park University. So it was a pretty cool weekend. And they had us, as part of the weekend, they had us give alumni pins to all the graduates as they left the stage, which was really cool to see the excitement in those young people's faces. Not all young though. There was actually one screenwriting student older than either of us, which she got a huge ovation. So it was really cool weekend. Not many better.
Well, great. That's awesome, man. Anytime you can, anyone is recognized from the past, that is a wonderful thing, because too many people do things that then don't get recognized. So awesome for that, and awesome for your wife. Congratulations. Kevin, did you get any pledge pins over the weekend?
No, I did not. No. I did go to Fort Benjamin Harrison, though.
I guess I should have said pledge pins. Did you?
Yes,
pledge pin?
Shame on me for not thinking about that over the weekend, because I am the biggest Animal House fan, and this is true. I actually saw Animal House for the first time on my first night of college. That's a true story. So the timing could not have been better.
And at that time, then, what were your thoughts? Did you think this is what college is?
No, but I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. It was marketed as being sloppier than it was. If you watch it, there's genius in every frame. I mean, there's so much wit, and there's lots of sloppy kind of fun too. But they're like from the beginning where Emil Faber tells us knowledge is good. The genius starts flowing from the beginning.
The people that are in that, I mean, I don't know that. I mean, of course, everyone knows about John
Belushi,
John Belushi, and that's who they think about. But Ivan Reitman, was that his first film? Maybe.
Yeah, he worked on that. Yeah, he was not the director of that one.
But he's a guy that would go on to become a big time name in film, but he was involved in that early on. Of course, you got the guy that was not in the movie, but had a big part of it, that acted in a lot of other movies with those guys, Ghostbusters and all that stuff.
Gosh.
Harold Ramis.
Yes, Harold Ramis. Yes,
he's passed away.
Yes,
now,
unfortunately, yes.
But he was like either a writer in that movie or something.
I believe he had a screenwriting credit on that. Yes.
Yeah. I remember, I've seen him talk about it, but he was not in that movie, which was odd. So, but yeah, it's just one of the. I mean, right down to the end. I mean, usually movies kind of fizzle out, but that thing went right to the very end and drug it. The parade. Kevin Bacon. That's Kevin Bacon's first movie, I'm pretty sure.
That is correct. That was his first. That was his first film. Yes, and he was terrific.
Everybody stay calm. Yeah.
It's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
Just love it. I need to go.
Belushi destroying the acoustic guitar. I remember when the guy was playing the acoustic guitar.
Yes.
That was great.
Bishop. Stephen Bishop.
He could do more with less. He could not say a single word in an entire scene, and it's like he was just running off an entire run of dialogue with just his body movements, facial expressions, and what he does. He was a hilarious dude.
Absolutely. That was a great film for him. Anybody who hasn't seen it, I always recommend that they do. Don't watch it on television unless it's on don't see the edited versions.
Yeah.
I mean, they take so much out and so much of you got to see it, not clean, but uncut. You got to see the film, not TV's version of the film. My wife, I showed it to her on the TV one time, and she still, it never connected for her. So you got to see it the first time, unspoiled, so to speak.
Yeah, and you have to be willing to just let yourself laugh, because if you haven't seen it and you get older, well, you don't always think things are quite as funny when you're older as they were when you're younger. But as long as you've seen it when you were younger, that carries over. It's like, that doesn't change. Caddyshack does not change for me. I saw Caddyshack when it came out in the theater, and I mean, that was a long time ago, but I've seen it 1,000 times since, watching it over and over, because it's to me, it's just like it is another Animal House. It's a lot of the same type of people who were just the funniest people in the world back then. Yeah,
I had a Twitter exchange about 2 weeks ago with some younger people who said that, like, the people the older generation around them totally dismissed The Hangover and found it to be foul and crude and
bull crap.
Yeah, I mean, like, no.
I laughed so hard at that when I saw it in the theater. I busted a gut laughing. It hurt so bad.
It is not easy to make movies like Animal House and Stripes and The Hangover, etc. But I wish they made more of them, because
now the Hangover 2 and the Hangover 3, that's a different story. But Hangover 1, I don't care who you are. If that's not funny, then there's something wrong with it. It's just like
absolutely.
It's like Wedding Crashers. There's another
Wedding Crashers was a good one too. Yeah, they're just we could sit here and name them all because there are too few of them. It's the one genre that just doesn't get hit right a lot. As I said, it's not easy to make a movie that funny, but when they do, you can't get uptight about it. Those movies are tremendous.
Well, not only that, and this is the great point that I wanted to make, as Tony pointed out, fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son. Both movies, just the movies we've just talked about, Animal House and Caddyshack. Caddyshack more so. The most quoted movie in the history of all time movies has got to be. Has there ever been a movie more quoted than Caddyshack? That movie is still quoted on every golf course every day. Every day. There is today at Eagle Point, there will be somebody that does something and the reference is Caddyshack. I promise you. It's almost impossible to play around and something not happen that happened and to repeat a line. As a matter of fact, I was thinking yesterday I played with some guys and someone hit a shot and I heard that was yesterday. Swear to God. And so it's just that may be. Has there been a more quoted movie ever, Mike? Of all genres, it doesn't even matter.
Well, Casablanca gets quoted quite a bit. Round up the usual suspects. How many movies became the titles of other great movies? You know, The Usual Suspects is not only a line that gets used all the time, but also became the title of another classic. So I'm not sure that Round Up the Usual Suspects, The Beginning of a Beautiful Friendship. There's a lot of lines in there that became basically a part of the American lexicon.
The Godfather is another one.
Yes.
Godfather trilogy.
Well, those movies have great staying power with certain lines, but I think Caddyshack has just almost the entire script. There's so many things being pulled out left and right that is said, and it's crazy. Gunga gunga galunga. So I got that going for me, which is nice. It's like you could just break up a sentence into 3 different things all the time. It's crazy. And then you had Chevy Chase and oh my gosh, Bill Murray, who didn't like each other, working with each other, apparently. And 2 of the greatest comics of all time.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of people apparently that would wonder about that. But certainly it's a great movie and one that like you said does get quoted a ton. I prefer Animal House to Caddyshack. I know there are others who look at it the other way, but I think Animal House is the pinnacle of the genre, let's say.
I wouldn't. It was certainly first, and I do remember this. There was shortly after that at Floyd Central. I do remember a food fight happening after the movie came out, and I was fortunately not in the cafeteria when it went down because apparently everybody got in trouble. But it was a whopper. Apparently, I'm kind of sad I missed it, but there you go. So. But, yeah. Mike, a serious question. What do you think of the Steelers' 2 quarterback picks, Kenny Pickett and Chris Olave? More importantly, I think I saw something from you. What do you think about the pick they didn't make?
Well, I was very disappointed at the decision to select Kenny Pickett. I thought, some people thought I preferred a different quarterback, but I had written 2 days before the draft a column for Sporting News that said that this is the year to postpone that decision, that you go into next year's quarterback class, which is deeper, stronger. I mean, there's a reason that there was no quarterback taken for 20 picks, and then not another for another 30 after that. Because the people in the NFL didn't believe in this group, and I didn't believe in this group. I agreed with everybody but the Steelers quad. Group. I thought that because they brought in another quarterback, Mitch Trubisky, that they could postpone their search for their next quarterback, their next long-term quarterback, until they had a better group to choose from. They thought they totally believed in Pickett, and I don't know why. I mean, what the fundamental thing that bothers me about Pickett is simply this. If there hadn't been COVID, Kenny Pickett graduates from Pitt a year ago, having never had a great year as a college quarterback, probably goes 4th or 5th round as just a camp arm, and maybe the 3rd quarterback, and maybe at some point in his career, because he's smart and a good guy, he can climb up to being a reliable number 2. That's what his future would have been. And now, because of COVID and because he chose wisely to take advantage of that extra year, he has a terrific year, and as an older player than most of the players he's going against, he has a tremendous year, and now all of a sudden he's a 1st round pick. It's just so convenient. And to me, maybe I should believe in miracles because I've had a heck of a career, and you could point to a lot of places where it could have gone wrong. But I just can't get myself around to believing that someone can get that lucky, so to speak, because that would, and obviously off a tragic situation, a disease that killed hundreds of thousands of people, but for him becomes this opportunity. Again, none of that's on him, but it just seems like such an unlikely development that he would become this, the next great Steelers quarterback. And I don't know exactly what the parameter, what the bar is there. Maybe make at least a couple of Pro Bowls and go deep in the playoffs and all that. But I just think that, I said yesterday that, it's kind of the biggest miracle in football since Tom Brady came along in the 6th round and then went out and won 7 Super Bowls. If Pickett becomes that guy, because again, that year that made him under ordinary circumstances would not have been available to him.
Kevin?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point, but I think you fall in love with like the stock. When you're hot, right? And when you, and Pickett took advantage of that, and he was the hot option. But you got Trubisky. Is Mason Rudolph back there or no? Or did
He's
he
still
leave?
there? Yeah, and
there.
obviously, they knew they had to draft a quarterback somewhere because of the tragedy of Dwayne Haskins. I mean, they originally had 3 quarterbacks on the roster after Trubisky. And then, of course, the tragic loss of Dwayne Haskins, they knew they were going to have to take a quarterback. But it didn't necessarily have to be anybody other than Aladakun, the young man they took, I think, from South Dakota State. That could have been enough. And to an extent, the picks available to them at 20 were not what they'd hoped. They'd hoped that Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle from Georgia, might be there. Kyle Hamilton, or at least Steelers followers had hoped. Kyle Hamilton, the safety who went to Baltimore, was off the board. Those were a couple of the players that people thought that they could select. And then there was an offensive tackle whose name I don't remember from Northern Iowa. And he might have been the final blow. But the way the Steelers reacted to Pickett's availability at their pick, it didn't seem like they had interest in anybody else. And they did reportedly try to trade up to get ahead of New Orleans because they thought they might take Pickett. The one blessing about this whole situation is that didn't work out, and they didn't have to overspend any more than they did to bring Pickett in. I can hope that he'll be great, but I don't expect it. I don't see it. I would have rather them be in the draft next year. Did they get bad enough to take CJ Stroud? Probably not. But there are other terrific quarterbacks, including a young man named Phil Yurkovich from Boston College, who's a Pittsburgh kid and who's rated as a top prospect in next year's draft.
What about the small hands? That was they were making a big to do about that.
And he fumbles a lot, so it may not be it may be a real thing. He has fumbled a lot. I don't know whether that really matters as much, but that was a thing they made with Jared Goff, and Jared Goff did play in a Super Bowl, but the Rams couldn't wait to get rid of him to bring in Matthew Stafford, and then Goff did nothing. I mean, some of it was he was hurt. He was banged up all of last year, but he did nothing, obviously, with the Lions.
Saw, Mike, that Scott Frost hit or punished, or Nebraska and Scott Frost received punishment from the NCAA for their foray into last summer's extra recruiting, or not recruiting, but extra work time, working with players out of season, I guess is what they were doing. He receives a 1-year show cause and a 5-day suspension, which at the end of the day is not much, because he's already on the hot seat. I mean, he's got to win this year or he's out anyway.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that he's got to be successful. Now, sometimes coaches are successful and it still happens. Sometimes they're not successful, but the people in charge see a spark, some promise there. So I don't know what the parameters are for him relative to continuing as Nebraska head coach. This doesn't help to have that on his mark, to have that mark on his resume. But I really think it, as you said, it comes down to winning games, to being successful on the field, and in their division, you should be able to turn that around to an extent. That the Western Division of the Big Ten has not been such a high mountain to climb that a coach, given the proper amount of time, can't conquer it in at least a season or two. You should be able to build something that it is able to finish first or second in that division at some point. If you're especially if you're at a place like Nebraska, which values football so highly.
Yeah, and it's what is he going into his 5th season in Lincoln? It's something like that. I mean, he's had the run. He's had a change of athletic directors, which I thought he may be in trouble last season when after that had happened, they changed athletic directors. But I will say this: they had, I want to say 9 of their games were decided by a possession, which was absolutely unbelievable. Even their spring game was decided by a possession, and they played themselves. But I mean, that would be kind of maddening to have 9 games decided by a possession.
Yeah, absolutely. But that may be an indication that they're close, and that maybe you have the opportunity now to get over the hump, and that you should be able to get there. And it is his 5th year this year. You were correct. He's had 4 years. And obviously, every coach who's trying to build something who went through this period, COVID, has had some, just about everyone has had some struggle going through that. It's a challenge. It was a challenge that nobody anticipated. There was no rule book for it or playbook for it. And it affected a lot of people in their ability to build programs. And I think that the more you were building and then it hit, as opposed to you arrive and then you get going. Like Mel Tucker at Michigan State was not at the beginning stages, and then all of a sudden this happens. He basically arrived in the middle of it, and so the impact wasn't as devastating for someone in that circumstance as it was for someone who had put the first few bricks of the wall up, and then all of a sudden here comes this to disrupt the whole process. No one out there that I've seen is giving out passes for that, but it is something to consider. He was successful.
I was going to say, amazing. It worked out pretty well for Indiana and Tom Allen that 2020 season. It was
right.
Almost like, because of the fact that you had so many opt-outs, Micah Parsons opting out, right, that it worked in that program's favor. And Tom Allen was in a similar situation as Scott Frost, and he almost took advantage of it in terms of, having that breakthrough season, albeit in front of no fans, but that 6-2 record and that run to, being one of the top teams in the Big Ten East. And then I think when, a lot of the big powers like Michigan and Ohio State had the full off season, had their facilities, had all their players, the bottom fell out so quickly for Indiana the following year.
Right. Exactly. And that's obviously Tom's challenge, is to try to, put it back up to where they're competitive again at the top of the, maybe not, they're not going to likely supplant Ohio State or Michigan, but you got to be competitive at that, with the top teams in the division in order to be successful.
We got to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about recruiting with NIL, because these guys are still out recruiting at all these summer events, so they're going just as hard. And Kevin, I noticed your Mets. I don't know how you say his first name. Yohan Lopez.
Yeah.
He throws at Kyle Schwarber. That's not somebody you want to throw at, man. He's suspended for 3 games. Your man Buck Showalter suspended for 1, but he did not like that he threw it at Schwarber. But we'll talk about more about that and much more. Mike DeCourcy's with us, Kevin Brockway as well. We're back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at BB's Marketplace. Make sure you reach out and find them on your wild card. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington or... what's your summer plans, Michael?
Well, my summer plans.
Anything big? I mean, anything?
Nah, nothing big.
Everybody
Nothing
always
big.
asks me about something. I'm like, man, I don't know what's going on this week. But except for I am planning on doing the show from Churchill Downs, at least on Friday.
Nice.
How long has it been since you've gone down there to that?
Actually, my wife, it's a long story, but my wife and I went to Louisville to see Elton John. I had bought her tickets to see him here.
I was at that concert at the
Were
Young
you?
Center, my friend. Yes.
How about that?
Yes,
How about
I was.
Well, it was a great show. And when we went, we took a tour of the Derby Museum that then they take you out on the track and everything.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, not on the track. They don't want you out there, but into the Churchill Downs area. And it was really cool. It was a short tour. I would have liked a little bit longer, but it was nice. We had a great time. And it was the first time I'd ever seen the inside of the track.
It's changed so much.
Yeah.
Over the years, but yeah, with that gigantic TV they've got in the I call it the outfield on the backside.
Right.
That didn't used to be there, but oddly you can see, clearly see Churchill Downs from Cardinal Stadium, which they're not very far from each other, where Louisville plays football.
Right.
But just an iconic place. Just kind of, it's weird once you get inside. It's like you're in a different place.
Yeah.
But yeah, haven't been for a couple of years.
Oh, that's cool. I'm glad you're going to get to go.
I don't think the weather's going to be great though.
Are they predicting bad weather?
I think it might rain.
I feel like it always rains on Derby. Except for last year when they had it, in September. Or was that 2 years ago? I can't remember. Might have been 2020 when they did that. Anyway, here we go.
Is that when September
Live
ends?
Music Friday and Saturday, and
Good
fun
one.
for the entire family. Where else can you get all you can eat, listen to great music, enjoy it all on a beautiful Southern Indiana spring night? Let's kick summer off early. For more information, go to the Courtroom Sports Grill Facebook page.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Tuesday here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, as you heard, brought to you by the fine folks at the Courtroom Sports Grill down in Bedford. They're bringing you also the 4th annual Crawl Fest, sponsored by Courtroom Sports Grill. It's back. Join us for their annual Crawl Fest, May 13th and 14th at the Harp Commons in downtown Bedford. This year's event headlined by country superstar and Hoosier native Clayton Anderson. They're planning for this to be Bedford's biggest Crawl Fest ever, with the biggest crawfish boil around, complete with a beer garden stocked with local craft brews, live music Friday and Saturday night. You can get all you can eat, listen to great music, enjoy it all on a beautiful Southern Indiana spring night. Kicking off summer early. For more information, go to Courtroom Sports Grill Facebook page. Get all the information right there. Looking forward to it. That's the weekend after Derby. Then we've got the Indianapolis 500 coming up, Mike. May's a busy month, man. Busy month. Stuff happening. What a lineup. The Kentucky Derby, the Crawl Fest Boil, and the Indianapolis 500.
Well, there you go. I mean, the 3 biggest events in America right there in 1 month, right?
Hey, I've got a potential story for you. It's not in your normal genre, I'm going to say. And I tag on it. I saw the comment up here earlier. I need to give him a shout out, but I'm probably not going to find it, but it refers to
Chase Briscoe, who is from Mitchell, Indiana, about 15 minutes south of me, 5 minutes south of Bedford. This kid is from Mitchell. First of all, there are 3 astronauts from Mitchell, back in the day. But Chase Briscoe has won twice on the NASCAR circuit this year. That is a major deal. First of all, just racing on the top in the NASCAR Cup Series is a major deal. He has won twice and almost won again, but he is a rising star in that sport. And he's doing pretty well. But we've had him on the show once before. He's very cool, relaxed guy, but I can see why he's able to do what he does. He is just a very naturally calm person. You almost have to be that way to do things that involve speeds at 200 miles an hour.
Oh yeah. You have to have you have to have an edge that most people don't have. I will tell you a story. 22 years ago, when I left the Cincinnati Enquirer to become full-time at Sporting News, the last assignment I was given was to go to the new Kentucky Speedway, and they had like a media day there. So, and I guess there was like a race that was going to come up, and I met Ryan Newman there, who became a big star in NASCAR. It was a Purdue guy.
From South Bend. He's from South Bend, Indiana.
And I met Sarah Fisher, who I believe she's now a car owner. She's one of the early female
drivers in Indy
on IndyCar, and then I believe she now owns a team, and so one of the things they did was they took us out on the track in what amounted to a pace car, I guess. Obviously a little bit more than a street car, a lot less than a racer. And they took us out on the track, and I thought, oh yeah, that'll be cool. And I got in the back seat with a woman who was a news anchor in Lexington, I think. And I am sitting in that back seat, and I am scared to death just to be in that, we probably went 145, maybe not even that. And I am trying not to let this woman see how scared I am. So guys like Chase Briscoe, there's a little something extra there that I fully admit I do not have.
Yeah, I would love to do it, but it's certainly something, because those guys are upwards at 200 miles an hour, and depending on the track. But the success for him is awesome. I mean, it was just a couple of years ago where he was down in a much lower circuit, and he got his opportunity last year, and he's making the most of it, man. But congratulations to him from Mitchell. Mitchell might be the fastest town in all of Indiana. I mean, you've got Chase Briscoe, but you've got 3 astronauts there that are from Mitchell. I mean, you come into Mitchell, I think Gus Grissom is one of the 3. I have to look that up, who the astronauts from Mitchell, but you would be surprised. It's shocking.
That's pretty cool.
It is. I mean, the fastest city in the state. I'd be calling it, but congratulations to him. I know a lot of people watch that. Recruiting with NIL. I see guys are still out recruiting, man. Whether it's the Indiana guys, you're still out, everyone out at these AAU events, Mike, they're still out there talking to guys that are 3 years from being out of high school. Trent Sisley and Jalen Harrelson, those guys are going to be sophomores in high school, but yet they're being recruited heavily already. And I don't think that it's changed recruiting a lot in that manner, because that was already the case. But it really makes you wonder. There has to be some changes, because NFL changes the game.
Well, I've dealt with a lot of discussion about NIL on Twitter over the last day or so since I got back from the weekend, and of course there was all the controversy about the Pitt wide receiver Addison, who may or may not transfer to Southern California over NIL, and there was a lot of concern about that. And what people have to understand is the NCAA can't do anything about this. Literally cannot. If they do, then they'll just wind up back in court and get crushed again and lose more money. And so they're not going to do anything about this. The only thing they can do and have been doing is lobbying the Congress. Now, the NCAA and the membership and the hierarchy really blew this one. I mean, as much as any decision they've ever blown. When the O'Bannon case, I wrote about this last summer when the Alston case was decided. I spoke to one of the lead lawyers on the O'Bannon case for the plaintiffs, and the O'Bannon when that case got basically certified to go to court. There's lawyerly language that I don't remember, but when it got the go ahead to go to trial, at that point the O'Bannon plaintiffs knew they were in a strong position, and the NCAA should have known that it was putting a lot on the line. So the O'Bannon principals, they weren't looking for, as far as I know, were not looking for a big payout. They were looking for change. And so they had a proposal to the NCAA on how all of this could have been managed better. And what's interesting is the NCAA guys didn't turn it down. They refused to listen. They wouldn't take the meeting. And if they had started there with that meeting and worked toward a reasonable solution, what happened over the weekend probably wouldn't have happened. There would probably be rules in place that you can't, basically use name, image, and likeness to recruit. And that was one of the principles that when the NCAA finally realized that it was losing this battle, and they put together what amounted to a blue ribbon panel, a working group, they call it. And they got Val Ackerman from the Big East, the commissioner of the Big East, and Gene Smith, the athletic director at Ohio State, to be chairs. And they put together a reasonable plan, probably a little too restrictive, but a reasonable draft of a plan to try to get name, image, and likeness rules into the NCAA. But it was too late. They'd already lost the O'Bannon case. The state legislatures in California and other places, Florida, were already drawing up their plans. It was too late to stop the train. The train ran right over. If they had been working on that now the O'Bannon case happened in 2014, so we're talking about 8 years ago. If there had been rules in place, then that sort of thing wouldn't happen. Isaiah Wong wouldn't have been mad at the fact that Nigel Pack got $800,000 from a consortium, an NIL consortium at Miami, Florida, to play for the Hurricanes, and threatened to leave over name, image, and likeness. Actually, Nigel himself did not threaten that. His representative did. His marketing agent did, which made a lot of people angry as well. But all of this goes back to the refusal to even listen on the O'Bannon settlement, and the reality is now that because of that decision, because of the Alston decision, the NCAA has no power in this space, and the only organization that can change what's now in place is the United States Congress. And there's been conversations, but I don't think they have an active plan that's at this point, even going in front of the body for vote. They don't have anything that's even close to being ready to be voted on. So by the time they get something, I mean, won't this all be sort of habitual and understood and part of the landscape, and even harder to change?
But isn't that part of the NCAA's plan all the time, to let somebody else do it?
No, I mean, the NCAA's made rules about things. That's the problem. They made rules that at a certain point became rules that were untenable. And this was one, the rule against an athlete profiting from name, image, and likeness. And it wasn't just, I can't sign autographs for money, or I can't get a car from the dealership and do an appearance at his site or whatever. It was, I'm an actor and I get offered a role in a movie, but because I'm a football player, I can't take it. Or I'm I'm a punter for a football team in Florida, or a place kicker, and I set up a internet business that's working. But because I mentioned that I'm a kicker for that school, you shut my business down. I mean, the name, image, and likeness rules were so draconian that eventually they were going to get blown up, and the NCAA refused to budge. And again, this isn't all on Indianapolis. This is the membership that was basically either being intransigent or lazy, and refusing to see that the way they were doing things had to change.
Kevin?
Yeah, especially when you consider too, I think what happened was, and I think Sonny Vaccaro had this great line, going back 20 years ago when the school started doing the apparel deals, taking the money, and then, creating these behemoth networks that resulted in these huge revenue pools. So the public perception in the last 20 years began to change as schools hoarded more and more money. And as coaches began to get 7-figure salaries, and administrators got 6-figure salaries, and the athletes who were essentially putting on the show were, getting compensated. It began with, via scholarship, which is, listen, an average scholarship still is worth a lot.
Comes with a stipend. It comes with a monthly stipend. I think of like $1,400.
Okay. But here's another thing too, though. Here's another thing too. The Big Ten Network broadcasts baseball, right? Baseball, you have 13 scholarships for 27 players that you have to divvy up. They're not getting full scholarships. Not all the athletes are getting, in some of the non-revenue sports, not all the athletes are getting full scholarships. So there's still that disconnect there. And I think public perception changed in the last decade that, hey, look, this is an economic rights issue. And that's why we are where we are now.
You mentioned that about it's actually, I believe the number, Kevin, is 11.7. Isn't that ridiculous? Why aren't those sports fully funded? You know why they're not fully funded? It's not about funding. It's about, I don't want Clemson to get all the baseball players, or LSU, or whomever. I want to get my share. So I'm gonna say that, so we're going to keep it at 11.7, and that way there'll be more players for everybody. It's ridiculous. There should be no sport at the high major level that is not fully scholarship. Whatever a normal roster is, 20 in baseball, let's say, 25, whatever it is, they should all be on scholarship, full scholarship, because the high major schools can all afford that. It's not about the money. It's about roster management. And that's ridiculous. Look, there has to be a cap. I get that, because you can't have 85 football players in a freshman class, and that used to happen. But you have to have a reasonable number, and the number isn't 11.7 because there's no such thing as 0.7th of a player. As short as I am not 0.7th of a human being. I'm 100%.
That's the best way to put that. Mike, what's coming up next for you?
Yeah, we have I promised you that project that's coming out. It'll come out this week about the one and done, and some surprising findings about the effectiveness of the one and done player, and how commonly that player, or not that player, but that structure, the multiple one and done players, the one and done teams are dismissed now. Can't win with those guys. You'll be surprised at how much you can win if you can get those players. It's not easy to do it. Right now, only Duke and Kentucky have had a prayer of that over the last decade plus. But when they get those guys, they're way better than people realize. So it's some interesting history and numbers and conclusions about the one and done phenomenon, and that'll come out this week.
Looking forward to it. Make sure you do too, and don't miss it at the Sporting News, and give Mike DeCourcy a follow, as he is always up on everything from Fox, BTN, as well as, which one did I miss? The Sporting News, of course, senior writer there. Man, I cannot thank you enough. As always, enjoy your week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Jim and Kevin. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Mike DeCourcy joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by the great folks at the Courtroom Sports Grill, where they're bringing you the 4th annual Crawl Fest, sponsored by Courtroom Sports Grill. You going to the crawfish boil, Kevin?
Don't know yet. Don't know yet.
What do you mean you don't know
decided.
yet? What else do you have to do?
Well, isn't there supposed to be some tournament in Westfield that weekend?
Man, there's always a tournament every weekend. The 13th and 14th at Harp Commons in downtown Bedford. This year's event headlined by country superstar, Hoosier native Clayton Anderson. You can show off your singing skills, Kevin.
Clayton Anderson, huh? He's a household name.
It is around here. They're planning on this being Bedford's biggest crawfest ever, with the biggest crawfish boil, beer gardens, local craft brews, live music. It's going to be a fun for the entire family. You can get all you can eat, listen to great music. Kick it off summer early. Go to Courtroom Sports Grill Facebook page. Get all the information you need. We're back with more right after this here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
Crawfish boil.
All right, we'll have a short segment here before Chronic.
Jeremy Gray named permanent PA announcer for Indiana men's and women's basketball.
Well, I kind of assumed that was going to happen. Yeah. I mean,
who else would it be unless he just didn't want it?
Well, here's the thing: who's going to do PA for football?
Why Chuck Crabb wasn't doing football.
I thought he was.
No, he wasn't. He's not done football for a couple of years.
It's whoever the guy who does first down Hoosiers. That guy.
Who's that guy?
I don't know.
It's not Chuck Crabb.
Yeah. You're Indiana.
But I'm sure all it took was Jeremy saying, "Hey, I want this job." I mean, he's pretty high up at IU.
I wonder if like Jeremy and Chuck Crabb, for them, like if they work at IU and doing that PA, do they get paid extra for that, or is that part of their duties or salary?
They can make it part of the duties, or they probably get paid extra. I mean, they already have a position, so does it really matter? I mean,
I wonder how much that would pay. $100 a game?
$250 a game? Who knows?
Yeah. Not bad for 3 hours work, right?
No. For a place that you have to be at anyway.
Yep. Your Indiana Hoosiers.
No, it's more like your Indiana Hoosiers.
Are you trying to do Chuck Crabb or Jeremy Gray?
Well, that's already deeper than Jeremy Gray.
Your Indiana Hoosiers.
Sophomore.
At a forward, 6'5" sophomore from Floyd's Knobs, Indiana.
I just like that Chuck was very understated. He had a very elegant, delivery.
Do you know why he was understated?
Why?
Because when he first started, he said something that was excitable, and Bob Knight made it known that was not how things were going to be done at IU.
Oh, really?
No excitement, baby.
No fake enthusiasm?
No fun. Cannot have fun.
Yeah.
Fun was not allowed then either.
All right, here we go.
Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Yep. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. And if you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference in you getting the home you want and not. Reach out to her easily. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Welcome back here on this Tuesday. Hope everybody's doing well. Derby week, man. I know a lot of you guys don't care, but hey, it's a big time sport. It's in our area. And I do. It's pretty cool. We've got the Indianapolis 500 this month. So a lot of big time sporting events, Kevin, that have actually been down the last couple of years because of COVID. I mean, as a matter of fact, we're talking about the largest spectator sporting event in the world. And then the Derby, one of the largest spectator sporting events in this country, if not beyond, at 170,000 plus. But Indianapolis, obviously, much bigger than that. But COVID really wreaked havoc on events like this.
Yeah, it'll be nice to get the crowds back, right, for both big events or both big time events. You're going to have tons of people in Louisville this weekend. It's going to be kind of a party, frenzied atmosphere, and nice to have those big time events back in this region. And I'm sure it's going to help the local businesses too.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to doing the show from there, at least from Friday, and doing it from the backside. That's out at the barns. That's where all the action's going on, and by the time we're on up, the horses will probably start being done with being on the track. They get out and on there early, man. It's a lot happens. It's happening before the sun comes up there. But
what's the latest with Bob Baffert?
Bob Baffert's in Southern California. He's not allowed at the Churchill Downs this year.
Yeah.
So there is that. I was going to ask, when I was talking to Mike about recruiting has kind of stayed the same as far as the guys chasing, they're still chasing all these guys, but it's not the same because the NIL issue is in there. And to me, that's going to be a gigantic difference because now Indiana can recruit guys for 3 years, but they're also going to now be able to lay an NIL package out that some schools can match, but many won't be able to match. But you have the Indiana brand that you can put on that, and that still matters.
Yeah, and the funding certainly behind that brand will help as well. I'm just curious about, you talk about 2 or 3 years out. Yeah, you have to have some very good evaluating and projecting with regards to that. Because what if you offer an NIL deal to someone that, say, is a freshman and sophomore in high school and he doesn't grow, he doesn't develop into the kind of player you would hope by the time he's a junior or senior? You got to have a really good eye for that, I think, and that's important. And I remember, back in the day when, Billy Donovan, offered Mike Miller when he was a sophomore in high school, and everyone thought that was a big deal to offer someone that early. And that was kind of the trend 15 or 20 years ago. Coaches, Billy Gillespie offered a kid that was in the 8th grade, right? Remember in Kentucky 10 or 12 years ago? And that was a trend, doing that. But you have to have a really good eye in order to do that, and to be able to project that this person is going to be a special player, the kind of player that's going to be a D1 contributor, because kids change. Throughout their high school careers, kids can change.
Oh, absolutely. But more importantly, the world of recruiting has changed. And have you noticed that the recruiting of Dexter Dennis has gone silent?
Well, the transfer portal, the deadline was May 1st. That came and went, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that came and went. But that was for football, right? Is basketball different? Can they sign?
Nope. Same. It's the portal. Well, the portal closes when it closes. But there is something. One is May 1st, one's June 1st for winter sports. But I don't know that
is who knows? There's too much.
I think
crap
the
to
issue is
keep up.
I think the issue is scholarship room right now, right? Isn't that the issue?
Well, for Indiana, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why his recruiting. I'm just saying, it's funny he hasn't gone anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I'm still wondering what's up there. We'll later in the week we'll talk to Alec Lasley and we'll get more on that. But certainly, it's becoming a bigger game to play now. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and I think, you talk about June 1st, that's the Trace Jackson Davis deadline too. So, one could be related to the other. Let's put it that way in terms of scholarship room.
Yeah, and there's just you've got a lot of guys that you first of all, you never know how much room you're going to have next year. You used to know. All right, we're going to lose these guys. They're going to be graduating. Now it's who's, and more importantly, who's just hitting the portal. So you never know what you're going to have for sure.
Well, this is the group that they have. The big issue remains shooting. So they've got to certainly develop it. If they're not going to bring the shooter in, they got to work with what they have, and make sure that they have better shooting from the perimeter. Make sure that they do a better job next season of freeing Miller Kopp up for more shots, and hope that some of the other guys on this team develop into better shooters. Maybe this is the year the light comes on for a guy like Anthony Leo between his sophomore and junior year, and he becomes that kind of knockdown shooter and gets more used to the speed of the Big Ten game. You never know.
Here's a prediction from John Rothstein for Indiana next year. He had him at number 16. And here's his predicted starting lineup. Xavier Johnson, of course, at a guard. Jalen Hood-Schifino at a guard. Of course, that makes sense. I agree with that. He's got Tamar Bates at a guard. I see him more as a 3 forward kind of a guy, but it doesn't matter.
Well, 3-guard lineup, yeah. I mean, it's semantics. Yeah, he's a wing, yeah.
And he's got Race and Trace down there. And so off the bench, you've got Malik Raynaud, Jordan Geronimo, Trey Galloway. But see, here we go again. You're bringing a second lineup in that is substantially. It's like a JV team. You can't do that. I think you need to mix and match. As long as there's not wholesale substitutions, that'll be fine. But I think it's going to be interesting to see Race and Malik play together and Trace and Malik play together. I want to see what that dynamic is like, because I think it's going to be different.
Yeah, no, and I think it will be interesting. And then you talk about Galloway and Geronimo in the second unit. I think that and Miller Kopp will probably be part of that second unit too if he comes back. Certainly, and all indications are he'll be back. So I think you'll have a little more firepower, maybe not much, but that whole bringing 5 guys in and 5 guys out, Mike's got to figure that out. You got to stagger sub. You can't take your whole starting lineup out like that. That just never worked. It didn't work in the Iowa game. It turned the momentum of that game up in Iowa. And I think the stagger subbing is the way to go.
It's no question. You can't do it any other way, or it costs you. Now, Indiana's going to have a little more formidable bench than they had last year. It's going to be interesting. We'll talk more about it when we come back. Chronic Hoosier will join us as well. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at RE/MAX Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference in you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington.
Hey, Tebow, in the comments, I'm not sure if you're misspelling Galloway or if you just think it's Callaway, but it is Galloway with a G. Morning, Chronic. They seem to go to use the restroom or something.
Good morning. I'll be there here shortly enough. I'm prepping for colonoscopy tomorrow. So
oh, man.
Enjoying some dry time while I got it.
Over the past year, a good number of our regular guests have had their fair share of colonoscopies.
They just bumped up the recommended time, so I have officially reached the age of violation for medical sake.
Oh man,
how you doing?
You don't have to apologize. I was just man. Excuse me. You don't have to apologize, Tebow. I was just seeing if you knew. Would you say, Chronic?
I said, how are you doing today?
I am doing well, trying to fight some allergies, but other than that, I am doing well.
Yeah, 'tis the season, man.
Welcome back, Kevin.
Yeah, I had to go down. They're doing they're gonna fix the vent for my washer dryer at my place. So, but they didn't give me any advance warning.
You went through colonoscopy protocol, didn't you?
Yes.
Chronic,
I'm in the prep period.
Soon
to begin the prep period.
It's the worst. Yeah.
Kevin, where you live at, man?
I'm in Oakdale Square.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's I moved here. I've been here since I moved here 3 years ago. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I like it. It's convenient. It's close to the highway and close to a lot of things like Liberty and stuff. So
you're right around the corner from me.
Yes, it's easy.
Who knows what he just said?
I said, give me liberty or give me death.
I got you that time.
Fucking Braveheart over here.
All right, here we go.
And right now, it's the Certified Dream Deal Sales Event. Get 0.99% APR financing for well-qualified buyers on all 2017 through 2021 Honda Certified Pre-Owned Accords, Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and Pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is a so-so Tuesday, but it just got better. Chronic Hoosier stopped by. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well, man. Glad to be back.
Glad to have you. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. It is a dreary day out there weather-wise, but that's okay. It's a little catch-up. Not a lot going on right now. Kind of a waiting period for Hoosier fans. Waiting period, waiting to see what Trace Jackson does, waiting to see if anything else happens, and I am not expecting anything to happen until that decision is made.
No, I would guess that front is probably heating up behind the scenes right now as far as activity is concerned, as the draft draws nearer and the deadlines come and go. As far as guys entering into the portal and whatnot, this is the point where, especially as school winds down and it frees up the schedule for a lot of these athletes, where they can actually start going and doing some draft evaluations in earnest, getting workouts in front of teams and their personnel, and start to receive the feedback that they're going to need in order to make those choices. And it's going to be a fascinating choice. My buddy Zach Osterman had a great article in the Star today talking about just what a unique case Trace Jackson Davis presents in this new era of NIL for guys that are borderline, that are probably looking at a two-way contract at best, and what the prospects entail with those types of decisions. So it's probably happening right now. You probably will get little information until the decision's made. I wouldn't be surprised if you see some tweets here and there about who's working out where, but ultimately they play the waiting game right now until till the end of the month before they have to declare their final intention, whether they're going to stay in or whether they're going to remove their name and come back out. So it's going to be an anxious month for the Hoosiers, or at least for Hoosier fans. But I have a feeling probably, I don't know that it'll go to the deadline. I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of weeks we don't get some indication, though, as far as what the roster is going to look like finally for next season.
Yeah, I'll have to find my tweet I sent out like 3 weeks ago. I fully expect Trace Jackson to be back. That's my opinion on it. But he's certainly going to go through everything he can and do what's best for him without question. I just look at the information I look over, which I don't have the information he has. He's got inside information. He's talking to NBA people. That's obviously something that I do not have. But I saw Zach's article too, and I referenced it earlier. I agree. I said that, had this been 5 years ago, Trace Jackson Davis, there wouldn't be a question. He'd be gone. He wouldn't have a choice. He'd be gone to either play in the G League or to head overseas.
Yeah, and that's what NIL gives these guys now. They have the opportunity when it comes down to making a choice whether to go professional or retain their amateur status and stay in school, to go get some advice, to go get some feedback. And guys like Trace are exactly who this process, or is very much who this process was designed for. And I think it's been a bit of an adjustment period. I remember in years past when the rule first changed and allowed them to at least test the waters, a lot of folks kind of freaked out. And I never really understood that pushback against it. I mean, this is a life-changing decision for these guys. And to have the ability to not jeopardize your college eligibility while still going out and getting expert professional opinions about what their prospects are, what elements of their game they need to work on, what they need to do to improve, or conversely, what the NBA loves about them, and allowing them to make the most informed decision possible. And I think it's absolutely a win, not just for the players, but for college basketball fans in general, because there's nothing worse. And we've seen it, several times in the past, guys who made the decision, who sacrificed the eligibility only to find out that all that glitters was not gold. And, they end up chasing careers overseas and all the struggles that entails, largely because maybe they overestimated their potential, or in often cases, they just got bad advice. And, the other element to that whole decision process, a lot of times it comes down to financial matters. Now in the NIL era, guys don't have to make that choice. They don't have to sacrifice, the pursuit of their degree or the other opportunities college allows in order to get paid for doing what they love. Now with NIL, as we're seeing and will continue to, these guys can actually make a pretty decent living playing college basketball just for being who they are and being able to profit off their name, image, and likeness. So be fascinating to see exactly how this shakes out. I don't know that we'll ever get the full details as far as an accounting of what it's going to take to keep a guy like Trace in campus. But my guess is there's some handsome rewards for him if he chooses to come back to Bloomington for another year.
In Chronic, some kids just don't like school, but Trace doesn't strike me as that kind of kid. I think he enjoys the academic side of it, the campus life side of it. I think that is something that he really likes.
Nobody likes the academics, man. Come on. Nobody wants to go to school.
Some kids do. No, and I mean, Tracy, he's a well-spoken kid. He's a very intelligent kid, and I think but listen, there's some kids that aren't like that. I think that factors into it. Another thing, NBA Draft Combine, Chicago, May 16th to the 22nd, and I was looking to see if there was a list of invites yet. I haven't seen one, but my guess is Trace will probably be on that list, and he'll have plenty of workouts too as well.
I mean, how could he not be on the list for invites? I mean, I would think anybody projected at any place through the second round would get an invite. I don't know how many they invite, though. Is it like 48 or what's the number? But yeah, I agree. No matter what, I think
down in recent years.
Shooting from the hip, I feel like it's like 75, 80, somewhere thereabout.
Oh, then if it's that kind of a number, then he's without question, because he's inside of that number. I've never seen him outside of that number on anything, so he'll definitely get an invite. But there you go. That's his opportunity. But that's where they find guys that they really probably didn't think much of, and that's where a guy that's sitting down there in the bottom of that second second day at the moment gets moved up some. So how he performs is, that will determine whether or not he comes back. I guess if he can hit some shots, somebody may decide to take a shot at him.
Just looking last year, it looks like there were 69 invites sent.
Then there's no way he does not get an invite. So there you go. I think that he ends up there. But ultimately, I think that he ends up coming back because it's just the opportunity coming back. He would make more money. My prediction, again, this is just me talking. I would say that his NIL deal would probably equal that of Nigel Pack, but his would be for 1 year. I think that's what it's going to take to get Trace Jackson Davis. And I think that whatever it takes to get Trace Jackson Davis will be done for Indiana to have that season because of the importance of kicking that, of what that would kick off, Chronic. I think that in fans' perspective, in recruiting prospects' perspective, what that would kick off the year Indiana could have, it is more than worth it to Indiana University from a financial standpoint on getting a return on that investment.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, there's big money on the line for everybody involved here. Not the least of which the school, not the least of which his current teammates. Obviously there's a pretty decent talent haul coming on the campus here this summer with this recruiting class coming in. But you may be on something there when you mention the kind of the pride element of it. There's a reason Trace Jackson Davis committed to Indiana when Indiana wasn't necessarily shining in the national spotlight. And for them, and I said at the end of this season how important the Big Ten tournament was. For them to be able to play their way into the NCAA tournament and what that meant. But I would imagine there's, especially how it ended in Portland, there's probably an aftertaste and some unfinished business in that locker room. I know we've seen so much expressed by several of the players there, maybe not from Trace himself, but that's something his teammates are certainly being motivated by in the offseason. So the opportunity to really see the deal through and get Indiana back to national relevance, prominence, is something that was part of the allure to bring him here. And I can only imagine that taste is even stronger now, having had the opportunity to dance ever so shortly. But at the end of the day, this often comes down to kids' hopes and dreams and how close he feels like he is to actually realizing and actualizing those dreams. So it's going to be interesting to see where it shakes out. I certainly, if I were a betting man, I would imagine, like yourself, we see him back next year. But crazier things have happened for sure. And, at the end of the day, too, it would be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that he probably did himself a lot of favor those final 2 weeks of basketball here. So all it takes is one scout, one GM that sees something, that sees a fit within their organization. And, they're making some pretty compelling pitches as well for guys that they want to get to suit up for them. So it's going to be a tough couple of weeks, but I think we'll get through it just fine. No matter which way he decides, I think the program is on the right track with or without him. There's certainly an argument to be made that, eventually Indiana is going to have to progress from such a post-dominant style of play if they want to really actualize what Woody has foretold of how he wants the program to become. But I'm with you, man. I think this is a much more potent team with him than it is without him. And I would certainly imagine that there is going to be a continued push to retain his services here in Bloomington. And not unlike when we recruit originally, the first go around, one of the benefits to getting an idea of who's really a player for those services is just knowing who you've got to outbid. So there's a lot of information that's revealing itself to all parties involved right now. And I think that information is just going to continue to come in and clarify here in the coming weeks.
Kevin, to kind of agree what you was talking about earlier, I do think that he enjoys being a college student. He enjoys being an Indiana University basketball player. And I think that there was nothing he would love more than being the guy, known as the guy, who lit the fire
of Indiana's return to prominence, which whether that's true or not, that's kind of how it would be perceived if he comes back next year. They have a great season, and then that propels from that point forth. So there's a great allure to that. I don't want to use the word savior. That's a horror, but the resurrector. I mean, it's the program is sitting here. It's toiling. It's ready to go. You can see it's ready to spring forward, but it just hasn't done it yet. And to be a part of that, to actually be the Pied Piper of that, I think that would be a big mark of pride. Not only that, the additional numbers that he would put up would put him into the Indiana Athletics Hall of Fame. He could potentially end up being the all-time leader in rebounds, blocks, and pretty high on the scoring list.
Yeah, I think it would open up a lot of doors for him being an Indiana legend. I agree with that. Although he may be already, and he's going to have that.
He hasn't won anything. Can't be a legend if you haven't won anything, man.
But he's going to be in the record books in terms of that game in Assembly Hall. But yeah, no, it's I kind of get it in terms of maybe a comp would be like George McGinnis right before the Bob Knight era, right? Who put up big numbers and but. Wasn't a part of those.
You can't compare George McGinnis now. That's he's a basketball god.
Yeah, but in terms of just like that, a guy that was a great individual talent that was part of teams, during the Lou Watson era that weren't very good. That's the comp. Not comparing them necessarily as players, but Trace is, he could come back and he could definitely leave a different legacy this senior year if they make the tournament again and if they go deeper. Which is certainly the hope for Indiana fans with the talent that's been accumulated combined with the experiences coming back, that this could be a team that, last year they got a taste. They made the tournament. They had a little bit of a bad draw going from, Dayton to Portland cross country and didn't have their legs under them in the St. Mary's game. But this year you play for a higher seed, a higher finish in the Big Ten. The fact remains that they haven't finished higher than 9th in Trace's 3 seasons in the Big Ten. That's what really has to improve so that you can get a better seed and you're not shipped out to Portland. That's the real key, is that you play the regular season for seeding in the NCAA tournament. And maybe this will be the year with the talent that Indiana's returning combined with what's lost around the league where you can really make hay and, make a run there to be in that top echelon of one of the best conferences in the country.
Absolutely. What is up next for you, Chronic?
B-Town summer, brother. It's so close you can almost taste it. It's obviously finals week here on campus right now. Got 13 school days left for the school corporation for the local kids, and I am seeing through these clouds very clearly, recognizing patio season is at hand, lake season is at hand. I'm ready to put the long sleeves up for good and break the sandals out and enjoy the part of the year that truly keeps me here in town all these years later. Can't wait.
It's that time of year, brother. We appreciate you, Chronic Hoosier, here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Have a good week.
Looking forward to next week. We'll see you guys then. Be well.
Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Hope you guys are having a good day. We're back with more. Kevin Brockway from CNHI is with me. I'm Jim Coyle. I'll be back with more after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington, I was reading Purdue's NIL collective thing that you sent to me, and it's so funny. Yeah. They start off, Auburn has one, Utah, Virginia Tech has 3, heck, even San Antonio has one. They didn't mention Indiana right down the road. It's funny. Huh?
Yeah.
Of course they're not going to.
They didn't mention a single other Big Ten team, which is dumb. That's who they're freaking competing against.
Well, that's the point. They want to act like that the other teams they're competing against don't have one. They don't want to mention it, at least.
But here's what I want to read their spin. Here's their spin. There are so many things going on that you're not going to know about
obviously, until it's been baked, said the representative. That doesn't mean it's not being baked. We're working on things behind the curtain to absolutely stay in the game and make sure that we are assembling the most competitive teams possible in all sports. Purdue's greatest strength is in its integrity and the academic excellence tied to what it means to be a Boilermaker, said Halpin. And we repeat that constantly if we've talked about how to build this model. That can at times delay the velocity with which we bring something to the surface, but it's not going to stop us from putting ourselves in a position to graduate student athletes at an elite level, prepare them, blah, blah, blah. It's funny. That's a great spin master there.
Yeah. Well, I sent that to you just so you could see it.
Bebop, bop, bop, bebop, bop, bop.
Cowboy Bebop.
Tutti frutti.
I don't know if I should go up to Chicago or not for the combine.
The combine is not in Indianapolis, or is it always in Chicago for NBA?
For basketball, yeah. Well, I think a couple of years ago it was in Atlanta, but now it's back in Chicago.
Gotcha.
I found out Big Ten football media days are going to be in Indy again.
Yeah, well, they announced that.
When did they announce it?
Like a week ago or last week.
It. Did he get an email on it or no?
I don't remember. All I know is the stupid, freaking ridiculous, goddamn basketball tournament is going to fudging Minneapolis.
Well, a couple of years. It's Chicago, then Minneapolis.
I don't care. It's ridiculously. That's Kevin Warren's bullshit.
No, blame the Indy Sports Corp. They didn't bid on it.
All right, here we go.
Or on this station every week, Monday through Friday.
Kevin
If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Kevin Brockway's here from CNH Side Papers. Do you think, I was looking at something, I was responding to someone that they're not sold on Jalen Hood-Schifino starting next year. And I'm like, I'll be shocked if he doesn't start. He has a very high basketball IQ, and he's played at a high level with and against elite talent on and off the ball. So
yeah, I just think the interesting thing will be he and Xavier kind of coexisting on the court at the same time, and who plays on the ball and who plays off the ball. I think you can make that work.
Jalen Hood's definitely going to be off the ball, I would imagine. I mean, X is the point guard for this team. He's not he's not the shooter. He's the guy that's going to make it go.
Yeah, but you could play X off the ball and create some driving lanes for him and get him to the basket. That wouldn't be too bad. I think you could be very creative with it. I think you can mix and match in certain spots.
Move X to the 2.
I'm not saying all the time. I'm just saying at different points. You could kind of, have them just mix and match, and it would take pressure. When you have two ball handlers like that, it takes a lot of pressure off one another if you're not bringing the ball up all the time for 40 minutes. And I think the good thing about, them too is then, you can sub one for the other two, or, stagger sub it where, one will be taking the pressure off the other. And we know the one thing we know about X is he gets in foul trouble too from time to time. I know he worked on that and he got a little better on that too. So I think Hood-Schifino has good insurance in that regard as well.
Yep. Without question, it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But we got a long ways before that comes to be, and more importantly, what the roster will be. But we know that everybody else that is on there is going to be there. And that potential starting lineup I read earlier, I mean, that's probably what I would have, where'd it go? Yeah. I mean, I can see
starting Malik instead of Race in order to bring Race off the bench, so that way you're lessening what you're bringing in another starter basically in that regard. But I don't know how Malik Renault is going to play with Trace, because Trace actually plays close to the basket, and so does Malik Renault. So I'm not sure you're going to play those guys at the same time a lot.
Yeah, and I think you like the chemistry of the returning starters, the fact that, Race and Trace play off one another, Race and X play off one another. So I think you want those three guys on the court to start the game just because of their familiarity factor, the fact that they know one another, the fact that they have some chemistry together, and then you maybe sprinkle in a kid like Hood Schifino, who's a natural passer, right? And then I think the wing position will be interesting because I think there'll be a competition there with Tamar, with Trey Galloway, who certainly showed some things last year. I think he'll be in the mix. I mean, if you want to go bigger and if he cuts down his turnovers, you could maybe try Jordan at the wing, and then you'd have a really big front line lineup that would rebound really well. But that wing position will be interesting to see, who gets that spot. And there'll be competition. Who knows? Maybe there'll be a wild card. Maybe a kid like Caleb Banks, who a lot of people are very high on as a freshman. You don't know. So,
and see, that's the thing. We don't know. CJ Gunn. CJ doesn't get a lot of talk, and I've talked about this up before. He's working on. He's going to be doing nothing but working on shooting all summer, because that's where he could help this team. You talk about someone that can help this team. If somebody could come in and hit shots, you're going to get minutes. You're going to be on the floor.
Well, and the other thing about CJ, and I've said this before, and some people disagree with me on this, but I think his defense too. He defends, and he's long, and he's rangy, and he's really
working
good
on it, and he knows that it's important. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think he could. He's so athletic. I think this was a guy we saw last year in the Indiana All-Stars. He blocked Caleb First at the rim. CJ Gunn. So that tells you about his. That tells you about his athletic ability and his ability. Like if you can, for him on the defensive end of the floor, I think he could be a really good defender. I just think that they're in better position now with guys like Gunn, Hood Schifino, guys that are more athletic. I mean, if they get a guy like Dexter Dennis too, another guy, because if you remember last year, what was a big issue in February? Ron Harper Jr., Johnny Davis. They couldn't stop Johnny Davis. They had Miller Kopp on him and Parker Stewart, two guys that couldn't defend him. This year, they're going to have some perimeter defenders. They're going to have some guys that are going to be able to go out and guard those guys. I think with the addition of Hood Schifino, and maybe a guy like CJ Gunn and some other guys that you can go out there and you can really have a guy that's going to guard on the perimeter and shut down some of those big guns in the Big Ten.
Absolutely. There was a comment I was going to stick up and I lost it. That's not the one. Daggone it. Let's see. I hope you guys have having a great Tuesday as well, Darren, rather, my bad. There was a comment up here that daggone it. Oh, well, I lost it.
Someone was talking about Jalen, the finger injury, with Jalen Hood Schifino, and he played great in the Jordan Brand game.
Yeah, that was not what I was looking for, but regardless of that, the starting lineup to me doesn't matter. People get hung up on that stuff. The fans get hung up on that stuff. I couldn't care less. Look back at the teams of those early 90s. Yeah, you know who the starter. Well, you don't know who the starters always were because it changed. I mean, there was the core. You knew that Calbert Chaney was going to be out there. Chris Reynolds was usually starting at point guard. But there was a lot of that team had talent. So it was a mix and match. That's the one thing I don't get with coaches who stick with a starting lineup no matter what, and they don't change it. Saw that with Archie, and it drove me insane. See that a little bit here. Now, last year, I understand there was a lot to lean on, but sometimes I think you need to do it just for the sake of sending a message, of shaking things up, of doing something different, and we just didn't see that. People will talk about when Trey Galloway started those two games, well, that was because of an injury. That's forced into that. But I think you need to know that your minutes are not guaranteed, man, that you got to fight for them.
Well, Parker Stewart wasn't injured, but Trey started, and then Trey got an injury, and that's why he went back into the backup role. But no, I think that was Knight a guy that changed it up, starting lineups, or?
Oh, he would change it up. There was no guarantee the halftime starting five was going to be, and rarely probably was it the same as the original starting five.
Yeah, no. So I mean, listen, there's something to be said for that.
It's what's going on in the game. I mean, I think that there has to be, and I remember asking Archie Miller that. I'm like, how is it that at every game that there's never at halftime a change in the starting lineup? I said, is there never a situation to where, what's going on in the game, whether somebody's got a hot hand that you don't ride that? I never understood that, and he didn't really answer the question. So I
defend Woody last year, though. I think the Northwestern game kind of showed, when
there's not a lot there. There's not a lot there.
There wasn't a lot of options that he could go to because the guys that stepped in didn't rise to the occasion. So I think that kind of confirmed the fact that he was going with the best guys, and that was what he was going to do because the options behind him weren't that great. So I think this year with a little more depth, you can probably play with the starting lineup a little bit more. But yeah, the key is a rotation. You want to develop an 8 or 9 man rotation, and you want there to be, in a perfect world, you want there to be, not much of a drop off between the starters and the reserves. I mean, I remember what the 07 Gator team. I mean, you had Chris Richard coming off the bench. He was a second round draft pick by the Chicago Bulls. I mean, he was that good. He was the SEC Sixth Man of the Year. You want to develop that kind of depth where you have so much talent that your reserves come in and there's not much of a drop off.
Tamar Bates, another name that probably need to see a difference in his game over last year and this. Step up during this summer. And become a Big Ten player. Last year, of course, freshman year, you got to step in. He dealt with some stuff on top of that, but this is a year for him to grow.
Yeah, freshman and sophomore year. This is the time to make a big jump. And don't forget, he signed late last year, right? He signed in April. So I mean,
well, so he had originally committed to Texas, I believe.
Yeah. So he he got here a little late, but signed late. So he's going to have the full off season now. He's going to probably, be here and be working on his game, and big off season for him, huge off season for him. And I think a big off season too for guys like Geronimo, Trey Galloway, Anthony Leal. If they want to get more playing time, they're going to have to go out and prove it and show. The junior year, I mean, that's an interesting year too, because Geronimo will be a junior, so this team will be a little bit older, even off the bench, than in previous years, just because you've got a little more depth, and it's older depth, which I think will help. Also, there's no substitute for experience. There's no substitute for stacking one off season on top of the other in terms of skill development. So hopefully you'll see the fruits of that. If for Indiana fans, they'll see the fruits of that in terms of some of the guys coming off the bench maybe being more productive.
Yeah, and then so you're going to have, I think, someone like Jalen Hood-Schifino, at the very least, he's going to come in and supersede a Trey Galloway. He's going to be in front of him as far as coming in, playing, whatever. Malik Reynaud, is he going to be in front of Geronimo?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think there'll be enough minutes to go around in the post. It'll be interesting how Woody manages that. But you're going to have 4 post guys in 2 spots, and maybe, if Jordan shows some development in his perimeter skills, maybe he can slide Geronimo to the 3 a little bit and play him there. I think that, and let's not forget too, with this program, there's always seems to be injuries. Now, last year you had Galloway, who was hurt for a stretch of time, and you had, you had who else was hurt? Finney was hurt for a number of games as well.
What about Miller Kopp? What does his role become?
Maybe shooter. You just try to get him, or maybe a guy off the bench that's a leader. And a guy that can.
There's no way he's in the starting lineup, is there? I mean, are you really? Is it really potentially possible to have 4 out of the same 5 starters on the floor? I mean, that would be if you have Xavier and Trace and Race, and you put Miller Kopp out there, then you've only added Jalen Hood-Schifino. That you've got to do something, and unless Miller Kopp makes a great advancement, that position did not produce last year. It has to.
Well, the 2 and the 3 didn't produce last year, and this year
you got 30 seconds. By the way,
this year you're hoping with Hood-Schifino and with maybe Tamar Bates to get a little more production from both those spots.
Just saw a lot of rumors that Jordy Hulse is coming back to B-Town to join his staff. What do I think? I think you guys should make sure you play in the Jordan Hulse golf tournament this summer. Although we're running short of time, get that up there, John, real quick. You can sign up on the link. Just go to the link. Go to this. We'll have this up everywhere as well. Or you could donate, sponsor a hole, whatever. But let's get that done. I forgot about that. And we'll talk more about that another day. But Jordan's still over in Germany right now playing ball. His Final Four coming up here next weekend. Next weekend. Good luck to him. Hey, thanks a lot to Kevin Brockway from CNHI, Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, BTN and Fox, and of course Chronic Hoosier. Most importantly, and John the producer, most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. But we appreciate you like you cannot believe. We're back tomorrow to do it all over again for you, man. So make sure you show up, and we'll be here. And until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana